it endangers you. Joining me now is Dr. Robert Davidson, ER doctor and executive director of the Committee to Protect Medicare, and Kathleen Sibelius, former Secretary of Health and Human Services during the Obama administration. I'm going to go to you, Director Sibelius, first, because you were also a governor. And so you had this responsibility of dealing with health care from an executive point of view. What is the danger in the United States right now if you have a portion of the population, we don't know how large that portion is, who simply doesn't believe that coronavirus is real at all, and who therefore have no incentive to take any precautions?
Well, Joy, thanks for having me again. And Dr. Davidson, it's great to join you. I think we're in a very dangerous period. If the president continues to hunch about scientific facts, if he continues to block the scientists from talking directly to the American public, then we are in a world of the Kellyanne Conway alternative facts. And alternative facts in this case can be life or death decisions made by people. We need to be able, as citizens, to trust that we're getting correct information, not only about what's going well, but correct information about what hasn't gone so well. We know the United States is way behind on testing. We know that our protocol doesn't make any sense right now about travel. So what we have is people making up their own rules. I get on airplanes a lot to go to meetings. I just had personally 2 meetings canceled that have been on the books for months, one in California and one in Washington, because the employers have decided that they need to limit travel, and they're going to make their own decisions. We need to get to a point where we are out ahead of the disease, where we're testing proactively, where we're identifying patterns, and then make travel decisions and travel restrictions and quarantine decisions and quarantine restrictions based on facts and epidemiology. That's not where we are. So the American public doesn't trust what's going on.
Yeah, and to go to you, Dr. Davidson, on that matter of testing, here is Dr. Anthony Fauci, who might be, sort of the best expert that Donald Trump has available to him, acknowledging that there actually aren't enough tests. Here he is.
We don't have enough tests today to meet what we anticipate will be the demand going forward.
Obviously, there's a lot of concern in the country. I think what we are doing is appropriate. I'm not happy about the lack of the appropriate number of test kits, that's for sure.
America is botching the coronavirus testing. And The Atlantic writes on Monday, Stephen Hahn, the commissioner of the FDA, estimated that by the end of the week, close to 1 million tests will be available to be performed in the United States. On Wednesday, Vice President Mike Pence promised that roughly 1.5 million tests would be available this week through interviews with dozens of public health officials and a survey of local data from across the country. The Atlantic could only verify that 1,895 people, not 1.5 million, have been tested for the coronavirus in the United States, about 10% of whom have tested positive. What is the danger, Dr. Davidson, of just not testing enough people?
Thanks for having me here, Joy. It's great to join you as well, Secretary Sibelius. Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail right on the head. Part of our criteria for who we refer for screening, one is the travel piece, which to me seems that's been blown out of the water. It's now in the United States. It's not just in those countries overseas. But the other is if someone has had close contact with someone who is positive for COVID-19. Well, the circular logic of that is if we're not testing anyone, we're not ending up with positives. Therefore, we can't assess whether our patient has been in contact with a positive. My nightmare scenario in my small town emergency department is one of our 3 local nursing homes has a care worker that may have been in contact with someone that they never knew. And now they are not that sick, as the president said, which may or may not be true, but they're spreading it to an extremely high risk population of people whose mortality has been shown to be around 15% across the world thus far. That is our big concern. And the lack of testing really is making it impossible to know.
And let's talk about Donald Trump specifically, because he seems to be kind of the biggest impediment to getting real information out, because there's a combination of his own posturing to try to bolster the economy and make sure people don't panic and the economics stay well, good for him, obviously, and the people around him feeling like they have to genuflect to him rather than be honest. Here's Donald Trump at the CDC on Friday. And this is about the people who are stuck on this cruise ship. These are Americans stuck on this cruise ship where they're having test kits, a few of them sent to them. But this is what he's saying about whether or not he wants them to get off the ship. Here it is.
They would like to have the people come off. I'd rather have the people stay, but I'd go with them. I told them to make the final decision. I would rather, because I like the numbers being where they are. I don't need to have the numbers double because of one ship. That wasn't our fault. I like the numbers. I would rather have the numbers stay where they are. But if they want to take them off, they'll take them off. But if that happens, all of a sudden your 240 is obviously going to be a much higher number, and probably the 11 will be a higher number, too.
Okay, if your mind is not blown enough that his concern is that the numbers will be higher if they get off, not that the people are safe. Let me go to item number 2. Here is the director of the Centers for Disease Control. And this is what Dr. Robert Redfield was doing rather than telling us the facts that we need to know about coronavirus. Take a listen.
First, I want to thank you for your decisive leadership in helping us, put public health first. I also want to thank you for coming here today and sort of encouraging and bringing energy to the men and women that you see that work every day to try to keep America safe. So I think that's the most important thing I want to say.
But rather than give my own comments, which are basically, what? I'm just going to quote Sam Stein, who tweeted, "It's tough to decide what the worst part of Trump's CDC visit was, saying he wanted to keep sick people on a ship to fudge the numbers, lashing out at the governor of the worst hit state, Governor Inslee, who we're going to talk about that later, being preoccupied with the ratings he got on Fox for his town hall, or saying anyone can get tested when they can't." Kathleen Sibelius, your witness.
Well, Joy, I think that Dr. Hahn said we should pay tribute to the men and women at the CDC, and I could not agree more. It's a terrific organization. But something went very wrong. We need to understand what it was because there was lots of testing done for H1N1 in a very professional way, lots of kits made, lots of testing done during the Zika outbreak. We know that went well. Something went very wrong in the last month or so. And so the United States is way behind where other countries are. We need to understand that and understand what they're doing to fix it. And it isn't about President Trump bringing energy. President Trump needs to get out of the way, let us understand where we are and what is really on track with the kits, because you have a ship full of folks. They have only tested, if I understand it, 21 people, or they've confirmed 21 people, but they've tested a fraction of the population. Clearly, they could test quickly and get people off the ship who are not susceptible to the disease, who are not carriers of the disease, and then get the folks who are into an appropriate situation. But to have Donald Trump suggest somehow that we can't count because they're on a ship and not on U.S. soil is idiotic. You want to get out ahead of the virus. You want to search for the disease. This isn't about keeping the numbers low. It's about an accurate report of how fast it's spreading, where it's spreading. We know that I think we're up to 30 states with confirmed cases, but how many other states actually have cases that haven't been confirmed? Where is it? Where are the hot spots? How you get out ahead of that? We need to count accurately, and we need to count proactively.
Yeah, very quickly, before I want to play a soundbite for you first, but Dr. Davidson, I remember in local news covering what they used to call the sick cruise ships, where you would have some sort of illness break out on a ship, and then it just travels around the ship. Isn't being on a ship more